Welcome back to the channel where we uncover the hidden treasures that might be sitting right in your pocket change, stories that take us deep into the fascinating world of coins that seem ordinary but could secretly be worth life-changing amounts of money. Today, we're diving into the mysterious, captivating, and almost unbelievable story of the 1946 wheat penny, a coin that has stunned collectors around the world for its astounding value that has reportedly reached as high as $45 million due to its rare and extraordinary minting errors, production mistakes, and the historical context that surrounds it. It's hard to believe that a simple 1-cent coin, struck almost 8 decades ago, could hold such staggering value, but as we'll explore, the world of numismatics is full of surprises, and sometimes, what looks like a small flaw in a coin can turn it into a one-of-a-kind masterpiece worth millions. The 1946 wheat penny came at an interesting time in American history. World War II had just ended. The U.S. Mint was transitioning from using wartime materials back to normal copper alloys, and the demand for coinage was increasing as the economy began to rebuild. But this period of transition also brought with it inconsistencies, experimental blends, and technical challenges that resulted in some coins being struck with subtle or even shocking errors. These errors are what make certain 1946 wheat pennies so valuable today, transforming what was once just pocket change into something that collectors chase with near obsession. The typical 1946 wheat penny is composed of 95% copper and 5% zinc, but because of leftover planchets and machinery still adjusted to wartime production, some rare examples were struck on experimental steel or mixed alloy planchets from 1943, when the mint had temporarily used steel to conserve copper for the war effort. A few of these rare 1946 pennies accidentally struck on steel planchets have been discovered, instantly catapulting their value into the stratosphere because of how rare they are. Imagine the odds of a leftover steel blank from 3 years prior somehow finding its way back into the coining presses in 1946. It's the kind of anomaly that makes collectors' hearts race. Another key factor in the 1946 penny's incredible value lies in the double die errors that appeared on some coins. In a double die obverse error, for example, you might see the letters of Liberty or the date 1946 doubled, giving the impression of a shadow or ghost image overlapping the primary strike. These doubling errors occur when the coin die itself receives two impressions that are slightly misaligned, and while minor doubling can sometimes go unnoticed, dramatic examples, where the doubling is visible even to the naked eye, can make a coin worth a fortune. Some 1946 pennies show doubling so clear that even without a magnifying glass, you can see the separation in the letters or the digits. These rare double die varieties are among the most prized errors in coin collecting because they are unintentional, unmistakable, and unique to specific die batches, meaning only a limited number exist. Then there are the off-center strikes, another category of error that can drastically increase the 1946 wheat penny's value. When a coin is struck off-center, part of the design ends up missing while a blank portion of the planchet remains visible. Depending on how far off-center the strike is, these coins can range from mildly interesting to absolutely extraordinary. A 1946 wheat penny with a 50% off-center strike, where Lincoln's portrait is cut in half and the edge shows a blank crescent of metal, can easily fetch thousands of dollars. Combine that with a visible date and mint mark, and you've got a rare and stunning error that collectors will pay anything to own. Another fascinating variation of the 1946 penny includes die cracks and cuds, raised lines or blobs of metal on the coin that occur when the die begins to crack or a piece of it breaks away during production. These imperfections result in coins that carry scars of the minting process itself, essentially capturing the moment the die failed. On a 1946 wheat penny, a dramatic die crack running across Lincoln's face or a large cut along the rim transforms it into a small piece of minting history. Collectors are especially drawn to coins that showcase major die breaks because each one is unique. No two are exactly the same, giving these error coins a sense of individuality that mass-produced currency typically lacks. Beyond the striking errors, there's also the phenomenon of repunched mint marks, where the D for Denver or S for San Francisco was hand-punched into the die multiple times, resulting in visible overlapping letters. A 1946 D penny with a repunched mint mark can be quite valuable, but when combined with other errors like doubling or off-center strikes, the value increases exponentially. In some cases, these overlapping mint marks are so clear that they can be seen even in lower-grade coins, but the finest examples, with crisp strikes and minimal wear, are the ones that make headlines at major auctions. What truly drives the 1946 wheat penny's multi-million-dollar reputation, though, is the rarity of combinations, coins that feature multiple errors on a single piece, such as a double die obverse combined with an off-center strike or a steel planchet struck with a repunched mint mark. When these combinations occur, their scarcity is beyond comprehension. Imagine finding a coin where everything that could go wrong during production somehow did, yet it still left the mint and entered circulation. Such pieces are so rare that even veteran numismatists may never see one in person during their entire careers. In fact, there have been reports of 1946 pennies displaying mirror-like proof-like surfaces, even though no official proof coins were made for that year. This suggests that some planchets may have been specially polished or accidentally struck with dies that were intended for proof coinage, adding another layer of intrigue and value. But how does a coin like this reach a rumored price of $45 million? The answer lies not only in its errors but also in its condition, provenance, and the passionate world of high-end coin collecting. When a coin with extreme rarity and historical context surfaces, especially in pristine condition graded MS 67 or higher, it becomes a trophy piece, something collectors will pay astronomical sums to own because it's not just about the metal, it's about owning a story, a mystery, a tangible piece of American history. The 1946 pennies era marked the rebirth of peacetime America, and coins from that year carry a symbolic weight as well. Some collectors view these rare era pennies as emblematic of the transition from wartime scarcity to post-war prosperity, making them not just rare but culturally significant. Another important aspect that affects the value is the color and luster. Lincoln Wheat Pennies are graded by color as brown, BN, red-brown, RB, or red, RD, with full red examples being the most desirable due to their preserved original mint luster. A 1946 penny that remains bright red after nearly 80 years indicates it was carefully stored or never circulated, and when that kind of coin also carries major errors, it becomes a dream find. There have been instances of collectors discovering near-perfect 1946 wheat pennies in old rolls, tucked away in jars, or inherited from relatives who saved them decades ago without realizing their potential fortune. Some were found in estate sales, inside mint-sealed bags, or even mixed in with other ordinary coins at flea markets. That's the magic of coin collecting, you never know when you might stumble upon a treasure. One of the most intriguing stories involves a 1946 penny that was examined by experts and determined to have been struck on a leftover silver planchet, possibly intended for a dime, making it thinner and lighter than normal. The misfeed of such a planchet into the penny press would have resulted in a coin that looks slightly off in size and color but carries the wheat penny design. Because this type of mistake is virtually unheard of, the coin's value skyrocketed in private collections, with rumors of it fetching multi-million-dollar offers. The fascination doesn't stop there. Even small details like misaligned dies, broad strikes, where the coin is struck without a collar, causing it to expand beyond its normal diameter, and clipped planchets, where part of the coin's edge is missing due to a faulty blank cutting process, add layers of uniqueness that make each coin one of a kind. The deeper you explore these errors, the clearer it becomes that the 1946 wheat penny is not valuable just because of metal or rarity. It's valuable because it represents the unpredictable nature of minting at a pivotal time in history. Each error tells a story of machinery pushed to its limits, of human oversight, and of the evolution of minting technology itself. And when you consider that the vast majority of 1946 pennies were produced flawlessly, those few error coins become statistical miracles, survivors of an imperfect process that somehow escaped quality control. Over the years, as more collectors and investors entered the numismatic world, the prices of high-grade and rare error coins have surged. Auctions have recorded staggering results for similar coins from other years, like the 1943 copper penny selling for over $1 million, so when a 1946 example with comparable rarity emerges, it's no surprise that estimates soar to $45 million. Whether the coin is actually sold for that figure or simply valued as such due to rarity and demand, the number reflects its legendary status among collectors. It becomes a piece of art, history, and investment all rolled into one. Next. 1944 wheat penny. Today, we're going to unravel one of the most unbelievable and captivating tales in the history of American coin collecting, the story of the 1944 penny that is rumored to be worth an astonishing $34 million. Yes, you heard that right. A simple 1-cent coin, something most of us wouldn't even bend down to pick up off the ground, could actually be valued higher than luxury mansions, sports cars, or entire businesses. What could make such a tiny coin so valuable? What kinds of errors, mistakes, and unusual minting quirks could transform a coin that was supposed to be made by the millions into a once-in-a-lifetime collector's dream? Today, we're going to uncover the mystery, break down the types of errors that have made the 1944 penny one of the most sought-after coins in existence, and explore how a simple mistake at the U.S. Mint could lead to a $34 million treasure hiding in someone's pocket change. The year 1944 was a significant one in world history. The Second World War was raging, the United States was deep into wartime production, and every resource, including metal, was being repurposed for the war effort. The U.S. Mint, like many government operations, had to adapt to material shortages, especially when it came to copper and tin, which were essential for ammunition and equipment. This necessity led to one of the most famous coinage changes in American history. In 1943, pennies were made from zinc-coated steel instead of the traditional copper because copper was needed for the war. However, when 1944 came around, the mint returned to making pennies from copper once again, but not everything went according to plan. Some leftover steel planchets, those small, blank metal discs used to strike coins, accidentally got mixed into the production lines for 1944. The result was the creation of a small number of 1944 steel pennies, a type of coin that was never meant to exist. These accidental steel pennies are among the rarest coins in U.S. history, and it's this very mistake that started the legend of the 1944 penny being worth millions. What makes the 1944 penny so intriguing is not just the existence of a few steel planchet errors, but also a wide variety of other minting mistakes, double strikes, off-center impressions, and composition anomalies that have made collectors and treasure hunters alike obsessed with finding them. Imagine, in a time when every cent mattered, the mint's machinery operating at full speed to produce billions of coins for circulation. Under such conditions, it's not surprising that some mistakes occurred, but what's truly fascinating is how those errors have turned ordinary coins into priceless artifacts. Let's start with the 1944 steel cent. In 1944, nearly all pennies were supposed to be made from a composition of 95% copper and 5% zinc, giving them their familiar reddish-brown tone. But a handful of leftover steel blanks from 1943 were mistakenly struck with the 1944 date. This small accident created one of the most coveted coins in American history. Only a few dozen examples are known to exist, with variations minted in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. These 1944 steel cents are magnetic because of their metal content and are instantly recognizable once tested. Some have been auctioned for tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars, while others have been rumored to be worth far more, especially if they're in pristine condition or have a strong provenance. But what pushes the legendary $34 million figure into the conversation is the combination of rarity, mythology, and collector frenzy. When a coin like this becomes so rare that only a handful are known, and one surfaces with a perfect strike, flawless surfaces, and impeccable mint luster, collectors go into a bidding war unlike anything else. The 1944 penny has achieved near-mythical status not only because of the steel variety but because of a series of other rare errors that occurred that same year. Some of these include the 1944 D over D repunched mint mark error, where the Denver D was accidentally punched more than once onto the die, creating a doubled appearance. Others include 1944 pennies struck on foreign planchets. Since the mint was helping other nations produce coins during wartime, it's possible some foreign metal blanks got mixed into U.S. production. For instance, some 1944 pennies were struck on planchets intended for coins of countries like Belgium or the Netherlands, leading to unique variations in weight and color. These off-metal errors are exceedingly rare and highly desirable among collectors. Then there are the double die errors, coins where the image or lettering appears doubled because of a misalignment during the die creation process. On some 1944 pennies, you can see a doubling on the date or the words Liberty and In God We Trust, making these coins stand out even more. Another interesting type of 1944 penny is the off-center strike, where the coin design is not properly aligned with the blank planchet. Depending on how far off-center it is, such coins can be worth hundreds or thousands of dollars. Combine that with a high-grade example or one with additional minting quirks, and the price skyrockets. Now, imagine finding a 1944 penny that not only has one of these errors but perhaps two or more combined, like a 1944 steel cent that also has a double die error or an off-center strike. Such an extraordinary combination could easily make the coin one of a kind, and when something is truly unique in the numismatic world, there's almost no limit to what collectors will pay. This is where the idea of the $34 million valuation enters the conversation. It's not just about the physical value of the metal or the historical year, it's about rarity, condition, provenance, and above all, collector passion. When coins become legends, they transcend their original purpose as money and become pieces of art, history, and desire. Collectors who can afford it will pay any price to own something no one else on earth has. The 1944 penny's value also depends heavily on its condition and grading. Coins are graded on a scale from poor, P1, to mint state, MS, 70, and those that are uncirculated or close to perfect can fetch astronomical prices. A 1944 steel penny graded MS, 66 or higher is not just rare, it's almost unheard of. Combine that with documented authenticity, a strong strike, no scratches, and historical significance, and you have a coin that could fetch millions at auction. Another fascinating factor is the story behind how these coins were discovered. Some were found accidentally in rolls of pennies, others in old collections that had been forgotten for decades. Imagine being the person who bought a small coin collection at a garage sale, only to realize that one of those copper-colored cents was actually a rare 1944 steel penny worth more than an entire fortune. It's that dream, the idea that anyone could find one of these treasures in their change, that keeps the fascination alive and the market strong. Beyond the steel cents, there are also copper pennies from 1944 with unique characteristics that make them extremely valuable. Some 1944 pennies have die cracks, where the minting die developed tiny fractures that left raised lines or patterns on the coin. Others show die chips, small blobs of extra metal where the die broke off slightly. Some coins even have lamination errors, where the metal layer separated or peeled slightly during minting, creating a fascinating texture on the surface. These flaws, instead of devaluing the coin, actually make them more appealing to collectors because they represent tangible evidence of minting history. There are even examples of 1944 pennies that were struck on the wrong planchets altogether, like those made from the metal used for dimes or foreign coins, leading to lighter weights and unique colors. One of the rarest known errors is a 1944 penny struck on a silver dime planchet, which has a distinct silvery hue and is much smaller and thinner than a regular cent. These errors often went unnoticed at the time of production but have since become holy grails for collectors. What makes this all the more fascinating is that these errors weren't deliberate, they were pure accidents, born from the chaos of wartime production, when the U.S. Mint was under immense pressure to produce billions of coins while dealing with limited materials, outdated equipment, and human error. These unintentional mistakes are what give the 1944 penny its aura of mystery and value. Another key factor driving up its worth is demand. There's something universal about the appeal of pennies. Almost everyone has handled them, collected them as kids, or seen them pile up in jars and drawers. The idea that one of those common coins could be worth millions is irresistible. It's the modern-day treasure hunt, and collectors from around the world compete for the chance to own a piece of history that few even knew existed. Auction houses have seen bidding wars erupt over these rare coins, with prices climbing higher each year. And with every record-breaking sale, the legend grows. Another fascinating detail about the 1944 pennies is the role of grading companies like PCGS and NGC, which certify and authenticate rare coins. A verified 1944 steel cent with a high-grade designation can be worth millions more than an unverified one. These institutions help confirm the legitimacy of a coin and protect buyers from counterfeits, which unfortunately have become common as the coin's fame has grown. Skilled counterfeiters have tried to alter 1943 steel cents to look like 1944 versions or change the dates on copper pennies, but genuine 1944 steel pennies have specific weights, magnetism. Last 1958 wheat penny today, we're talking about a fascinating piece of American coinage history that has taken the numismatic world by storm, the 1958 wheat penny, a humble-looking 1-cent coin that's rumored to be worth an astonishing $24 million because of its rare errors and mysterious minting mistakes. Now, at first glance, the 1958 penny doesn't look like anything special. It's small, coppery, and has the classic image of Abraham Lincoln on the front and the familiar wheat ears on the back, the design that had graced the reverse of the penny since 1909. But beneath its modest appearance lies a story full of twists, minting quirks, and peculiarities that have made it one of the most talked about coins among collectors and treasure hunters alike. So, what makes this coin so valuable? Why would a 1-cent coin minted in Denver in 1958 command a price tag that rivals luxury cars and even entire houses? The answer lies in the extraordinary combination of minting errors, historical context, and pure rarity that defines the few known examples of this peculiar penny. Back in 1958, the United States Mint in Denver was producing millions of Lincoln Wheat cents as part of the final years of the Wheat reverse design before transitioning to the Lincoln Memorial design in 1959. The Denver Mint was operating at full capacity, striking coins day and night to meet the demands of post-war America's booming economy. Quality control, while rigorous, was not perfect, and it's in these high-volume production years that some of the most fascinating minting errors occurred: double dies, repunched mint marks, die cracks, off-center strikes, and other anomalies that would later become the hallmarks of numismatic treasures. Among these, the 1958 D penny stands out because of its exceptional combination of potential minting errors that have baffled experts for decades. Some 1958 D pennies display doubling on the obverse, particularly on the date and the lettering Liberty or In God We Trust. Such doubling occurs when the coin die shifts slightly during the hubbing process. That's when the master die impresses the design onto the working die, resulting in a coin that appears to have two overlapping images. For collectors, such doubling is one of the most sought-after minting anomalies because it represents a clear and visible manufacturing error straight from the mint. But what makes the 1958 D even more mysterious is that official records from the U.S. Mint don't show any significant double die errors for that year's Denver production, leading many to believe that the few known examples with doubling or unusual die marks were accidental survivors of an experimental batch or a misaligned die test that was never meant to circulate. This secrecy, combined with the ultra-low number of confirmed examples, is what fuels the $24 million valuation rumor. Furthermore, some experts have speculated that these error pennies might have been struck using a leftover or modified die from 1958 Philadelphia Mint double die tests, coins like the famous 1958 double die penny from Philadelphia, which already commands high prices. If a Denver Mint working die somehow received impressions from such an experimental or misaligned hub, the resulting pennies would display doubling similar to the Philadelphia version but with a small D mint mark, creating a unique hybrid that should not exist according to mint records. The mystery deepens when examining other anomalies found on certain 1958 D wheat cents. Some have been reported with die cracks stretching across Lincoln's shoulder or through the fields, giving the coin raised lines that resemble veins of metal running across the surface. Others have off-center strikes where the design is misaligned, revealing a crescent-shaped blank area on one side. These visual cues make each coin unique, and collectors go wild for such imperfections because they capture a moment of human error in an otherwise mechanized process. Then there are the repunched mint marks, small D mint marks that appear doubled or even tripled under magnification, a sign that the mint mark punch slipped or was struck more than once on the die before striking coins. These varieties can be subtle, but in the world of numismatics, subtle differences often mean massive differences in value. Combine these characteristics with pristine condition, such as a coin graded MS-67 or MS-68 by a top-tier grading company, and you've got a once-in-a-lifetime specimen worth millions. But beyond physical errors, part of what makes the 1958 D wheat penny so valuable is its position in history. It represents the very end of an era. 1958 was the last year the iconic wheat reverse was minted. In 1959, the reverse design changed to the Lincoln Memorial, marking a major shift in U.S. coinage history. This transition adds nostalgia and significance to any 1958 coin, but when paired with a Denver mint mark and visible anomalies, the coin becomes a tangible piece of numismatic evolution, the final breath of a beloved design mixed with the imperfections that make collectors' hearts race. Imagine a coin that embodies both the past and the future of American coin design, with minting quirks that defy official explanation. That's the 1958 D wheat penny's allure. When collectors discover one, they're not just holding copper, they're holding history, mystery, and money rolled into one. Another fascinating aspect contributing to the coin's multi-million-dollar worth is its scarcity. Although millions of 1958 D pennies were minted, only a handful display the extreme errors that push their value into the stratosphere. It's this rarity within abundance that makes coin collecting so thrilling. Think about it, there could be a $24 million penny sitting unnoticed in someone's jar of old change, waiting to be discovered. This possibility fuels excitement across the collecting community and drives people to examine every 1958 penny they find under magnifying glasses and microscopes, hoping to spot the telltale signs of doubling or repunched marks that could change their lives forever. As word spreads about these rare errors, even small imperfections on 1958 pennies are being scrutinized and sent for professional grading, hoping they might reveal an unknown variety. Some collectors have theorized that certain examples were part of a limited batch struck accidentally using mismatched dies, one from Denver, one from Philadelphia, which could explain the unusual characteristics seen on some coins. The mint never officially confirmed such an occurrence, but that ambiguity only adds to the legend. Coin collectors love a mystery, and the 1958 penny has become something of a numismatic urban legend, blending fact, speculation, and verified examples into a tantalizing mix that keeps enthusiasts searching. Now, the condition of the coin plays an enormous role in determining its worth. A circulated 1958 penny with typical wear might be worth only a few cents, but an uncirculated specimen showing brilliant luster, minimal contact marks, and clear error details could command astronomical sums at auction. When you combine a perfect or near-perfect condition with undeniable doubling or repunched marks, the value soars, and it's here that the $24 million figure comes into play, driven by market hype, collector passion, and the rarity of confirmed error examples. Beyond just the doubling or repunched marks, even small planchet defects, like clipped planchets where a portion of the metal blank was missing before striking, can turn a regular penny into a collectible oddity. The 1958 series has also produced examples with lamination errors, where the outer layer of metal begins to peel away due to impurities in the alloy. These imperfections may seem minor, but to serious collectors, each one is a fingerprint of history, a physical record of the mint's machinery and methods from over 6 decades ago. The value of such coins is not just in the metal or face value but in the story each imperfection tells. Some 1958 pennies show light die polishing lines or unusual texture in the fields, indicating that mint workers attempted to smooth out die wear before continuing production. This means that even within the same batch, variations could occur, creating subtypes that appeal to different collectors. And in today's world, where auction houses and online marketplaces can turn a small discovery into a viral sensation overnight, the legend of the 1958 penny's multimillion-dollar worth only grows stronger. In recent years, we've seen ordinary-looking pennies fetch unimaginable prices at auction due to their unique characteristics. The precedent set by coins like the 1943 copper penny, the 1955 double die penny, or the 1969 double die obverse has shown that the right combination of rarity and condition can push values into millions. So when collectors hear whispers of a 1958 penny with rare doubling or mysterious die anomalies fetching up to $24 million, it sparks a frenzy of searching, speculation, and storytelling. After all, coin collecting is as much about the chase as it is about the prize. And the 1958 wheat penny sits at the perfect crossroads of rarity, mystery, and desirability. Experts have spent countless hours studying die varieties, cataloging mint mark placements, and analyzing strike details to understand what makes the rare examples so special. Some believe the errors stem from a transitional die mix-up, that during preparation for the switch to the memorial reverse, a Denver die may have been paired incorrectly with an earlier hub, leading to design inconsistencies unseen in regular issues.